Laughter erupted simultaneously, as if someone had pressed a button that activated the entire island. High pitches, low pitches, shrill and deep tones mingled, making it impossible to tell who started it. Taidy stood in the center, automatically laughing along. Her heart raced, but not with joy. It was in sync with everyone else's. Taidy murmured softly, what are we laughing at? A question arose in her mind, but so faint it was almost drowned out by the surrounding sounds. Why are we laughing? At the pier, a brightly colored banner fluttered in the wind. Large letters clearly read, "Have fun first, think later." The captain spoke quickly, thinking rapidly, as if the world would disappear if he stopped breathing. The captain jumped onto the boat, speaking rapidly. "The world doesn't wait for anyone, kids. These days have to be quick. Have fun first, think later." Taidy, what if I'm not ready? The captain laughing. Being ready makes you miss out. Having fun is what keeps you going. Taidy listened to every word, but in her heart there was a small void, an answer yet to be found. The boat's ropes were quickly untied. The boat slowly moved away from the shore. Before Taidy could finish her question, Taidy, wait, I still have a question. She stood still, but felt as if she were being pulled forward, even though her feet hadn't moved yet. And for the first time, Taidy began to wonder, rushing to keep up with others might not be the same as knowing where you're going. This bustling market has no doors. There are no opening or closing times. Everything revolves around the words new, added, better. Colorful lights are constantly on. The inviting voices are incessant. Taidy stands in the middle of the market. She feels like the world is spinning faster than her heart. A vendor with a cheerful voice walked around, one hand holding a tablet, the other pointing at a sign. Instant happiness, no time required, no self-understanding needed. Taidy was led to a seat in front of a game. Flashing lights and the sound of applause rang out automatically. She won, receiving a small prize. The prize was exchanged for points. The points were exchanged for the right to play again. She noticed her surroundings. Many adults stood with their heads down, not smiling, but their fingers moving rapidly. Their eyes were more serious than the children's. Taidy secretly wondered, are they really having fun? Polly, the candy-colored bird, circled overhead. It spoke in a bright voice, but its eyes were empty. Fun is life. Fun is success. The words echoed again like a mnemonic, unwavering and unchanging. Taidy looked up, and suddenly a strange feeling struck her. If one day she stopped having fun, stopped playing, stopped chasing the numbers, perhaps no one would see her anymore. In the middle of the island stood a low, strange-looking tower. There was no sign inviting anyone in, no music, no urgency, no attraction. The clock on the tower had no hands, no numbers, and no alarm sound. Taidy walked closer. She didn't know why, but she felt there was no need to rush here. The watchmaker sat there, unhurried, uninviting, unselling anything. He spoke softly. Here, it's not about who's faster, but who still feels. Taidy sat down. The silence made her feel awkward, like she was breaking a rule no one had ever told her. Taidy asked softly, "If it's not fun, does that mean it's wrong?" The watchmaker shook his head. He said, "Perhaps the lack of fun isn't the problem, but a signal, like a letter from the body, wanting us to stop reading other things and start reading ourselves." Taidy didn't answer, but in her heart it was as if a small space had opened up, allowing her to breathe. The music blared again, drowning out the silence Taidy had just experienced. A new game was set up in the middle of the market. A large sign clearly read, "Win and you have to keep playing." A vendor with a cheerful voice explained confidently, "Happiness has to be continuous. If you stop, it disappears instantly." Taidy looked at the sign. She felt as if the words were rushing her, without asking if she wanted to rush or not. Taidy played the game, her hands moving to the rhythm as if her body had memorized the moves automatically. She won. Applause erupted immediately, louder than she could feel. But a heavy weight rose in her chest, as if something heavy was placed there. Unseen, she could feel it clearly. The victory hadn't lightened her burden at all. The polyphony hovered above the players, repeating in a bright voice, "Stopping means losing, stopping means missing out." Taidy looked around. People were still playing. No one was losing, no one was winning. There were only those who didn't dare to stop, afraid that if they didn't continue playing, something would be lost. And in that moment, Taidy began to understand that this game didn't need a winner. It just needed people who weren't brave enough to stop. A long table stretches far and wide, filled with brightly colored pastries. Each piece is arranged thoughtfully, making them look tempting and exciting. Every bite is designed to elicit a wow sensation, like a fleeting moment of happiness, making you want to try another bite immediately. The first bite, sweet. The second bite, strong. The third bite, tasteless. Taidy paused to chew. She felt full, but not satisfied. The initial amazement quickly faded. Taidy whispered, "I'm still not full." The vendor simply smiled and said, "Being full doesn't matter, as long as you still want more." Taidy's stomach felt heavy, but her heart felt light. And in that lightness, she began to understand that some pleasures are designed to keep us from feeling full, to make us want more and more, without ever asking if we truly want it. The watchman didn't call out to Taidy. He simply stood up and walked slowly, as if confident that if she wanted to come, she would come on her own. The sounds of the market gradually faded, not because they were quieter, but because Taidy no longer walked to its rhythm. The path narrows. The ground is uneven. At times you have to take steps. At other times you have to stop. The watchman says, "People rarely choose this path because there's no guarantee." Taidy asks, "What if the walk isn't enjoyable?" He pauses and turns to answer unhurriedly. "If it's not enjoyable, it means you're listening to yourself." The wind blew. There was no music. No one applauded the slow walk. Taidy felt her own feet. For the first time, she realized that walking didn't always have to lead to something. When she asked, "What if I wanted to go back?" the clock keeper smiled faintly. "The road isn't closed, but we won't shout." And in that silence, Taidy understood that some things don't need competition, they just need honesty with one's feelings. When Taidy returned to the market, everything was the same. The sounds were still loud, the lights were still bright, invitations and urgings still hung in the air. But something had changed, not her surroundings, but her own inner rhythm. She didn't react as hastily as before. A cheerful vendor waved and called out, "There's a new game, just one play and you'll feel great." Taidy listened. She did feel good, but her body wouldn't move in response. A captain suddenly walked over, warning her, "Are you sure you don't want to play? Everyone else will overtake you." Taidy asked, "Overtake where?" That question brought everything to a standstill, because no one had ever asked clearly what was ahead. The captain chuckled dryly.
Well, overtake what's ahead. What's ahead? The polyphony circled lower than usual. It opened its mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. Silence spread. Not an awkwardness, but an empty space that was not quickly filled. In that stillness, Taidy felt clearly that not choosing something was choosing oneself. The ship is still anchored. The engine is warmed up, ready to depart. Some passengers pace back and forth. Some are starting to get impatient. Some are still glued to the activities on shore. A complaint is uttered. Why haven't they left yet? It's as if waiting is a mistake.
The captain suddenly grabbed the steering wheel. His voice was softer than usual. He said, "A ship can always set sail if it knows where it's going." The words weren't loud, but they lingered for a long time, as if waiting for someone to ponder them. Taidy stood on the dock. She looked at the island. She looked at the silent walkway. She looked at the people still hurrying. She knew that if she boarded the ship now, there would be noise. There would be games, there would be fun readily available. But she also knew that if she was unsure whether she was fleeing or making a choice, the ship would always take her back to the same place. She asked to wait. "Taidy, can I not board yet?" The captain nodded, saying, "A ship doesn't flee from those who know themselves." Taidy didn't answer. No announcement, no conclusion. The ship remained anchored, and for the first time, not departing wasn't a failure. Stopping isn't defeat, but asking a question no one wants to ask. When fun becomes a duty, listening to yourself becomes silent resistance. Taidy stands still, not rushing, not running away, not needing to prove anything. And sometimes the ship hasn't set sail yet, not because we're not ready, but because we're beginning to realize that we don't want to disappear from our own lives.